Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a few comments, and I'd like to thank the gentleman from Senator from District 5 for his explanation of the bill. And also, Paul Leary, who's the Director of Medicaid, for some of the things that they're doing at the Department of Medicaid, and also Dick Armstrong, who's the Director of Health and Welfare. I think they are really trying to get this budget under control. But I do have a few issues I'd like to bring up and some things I think we need to be talking about next year. As you'll see in the handout that I provided, in 1992, Medicaid as a percent of the state budget was only 5.9%. And this year, in 2013, it got up to 17.55%. And because of the increase in federal spending, it's actually dropped a little bit this year. But this seems to be increasing, and I think it threatens our other budgets, state budgets, so it's an issue that we really need to pay attention to, and I'd like to point out a few things that we might address in the years to come to control the spending. Medicaid is based on the principle that government can and should dispense charity care, and I'd like to point out a couple of practical problems with this approach. The first problem is there's no natural stopping point. Do we stop paying for helping people when they get to be elderly at age 76 or at age 70 or 45? Do we pay for appendicitis but not cancer, broken bones but not heart attacks? There's just, when you're trying to help people, there's just no natural stopping point. When you have private charity, however, there are natural stopping points, the most notable being that when you run out of money, it's pretty hard to help anybody. The second has to do with control. When we have government dispensing charity care, not only does it determine who will receive the care, but it determines how much they will receive, what type of procedures they'll receive, and even the payment level to providers. Medicaid being funded through taxes means also that government has access to the laborers or the workers' income. And I'd like to read, if I could, a short excerpt from the 5,000-Year Leap by Cleon Skousen on page 171.
Having identified the source, Senator may read.
And this is about property and the nature of property. Another interesting point made by Locke, meaning John Locke, is the fact that all property is an extension of a person's life, energy, and ingenuity. Therefore, to destroy or confiscate such property is in reality an attack on the essence of life itself. And what I'm afraid of is because we're focusing on our charitable acts, we're really not seeing the damage being done not only to the people that we're trying to help, but also to the people that from whom we're extracting the resources. Real charity to me is a voluntary act. Medicaid is not voluntary. You don't have to take it, but you do have to fund it. The federal government also is providing about 70% of the funds in this budget. And 42% of these funds have their origin in borrowed money. So what we're actually doing is we're funding current medical needs of our citizens with the future labor of our young children and children yet unborn. To me, this is a form of involuntary servitude and violates the spirit of the 13th Amendment. Medicaid needs to be reformed to move away from this current open-ended dependency, creating consumption system to a system that encourages and expects independence and, when possible, self-sufficiency. And one of the reasons I'm really interested in this budget is that it's 100% medical cost driven. And you've heard me say a few things during this session about the importance of reducing medical costs. If we were able to hold down medical costs and get them down to what I think historical levels are more appropriate at 10%, this budget could be reduced by 50%. So Medicaid, medical costs, our economy are all tied together, and I think this is one of the key areas we need to address. I believe Medicaid can be reformed by implementing the following concepts. Some of these concepts are mine, others, most of them are not. And many of them we are actually moving that direction in Idaho. But I think we should have a goal to limit Medicaid to 1% of the general fund in order to protect our other budgets. I think there should be some lifetime limits placed on some classes of individuals and we're going to have to fight hard with our federal partners to make sure that this can happen. We need to continue our efforts to implement a capitated managed care system. We should have enforceable co-pays. I think they should be linked with medical savings accounts, so people on Medicaid actually have some control over some of the funds that they're using. Personal improvement plans. You know, generally people do not want to be on Medicaid or any other social program, but we are not providing the necessary resources to help them get off. Interestingly, some of the Affordable Care Act can make this easier to do, create some off-ramps. So I think there's some positive things we need to look toward if we see what we need to do. Another area is emergency room reform. There's a lot of very intelligent people in the state, and we have the overuse of the emergency room, and I think it's time we deal with this issue. There's some costs there that can be saving without reducing the quality of care for people. There's some programs that have self-directed care, where people on Medicaid actually have control over the funds that they spend, and they use them how they see fit, where they have, it's called self-directed care. And lastly, overall health care reform and cost reform outside of the Affordable Care Act, which most of its application I don't believe will be helpful. But I also believe that in the long run, it would be better to end this program today and rely strictly upon private charity than continue the same program we have today for another 10 years. I believe that if this program continues to grow, taking people out of the labor force, taking funds away from education and other state programs, reducing the tax base and increasing the culture of dependency, that may be even as little as 10 years, or eventually it may be even as little as 10 years, the number of people receiving benefits will overwhelm and outnumber those producing and working, thus bankrupting the system and leaving those using those benefits completely dependent with nothing left but to fend for themselves. Now, I'm not saying we need to end the program today, nor do I see that this program has to go bankrupt. What we need to do is have a commitment to needed reforms in the years that come. And this is especially important in the light of Medicaid expansion, which will be debated more fully next year. With that, I really don't want to defeat this budget because I think there's some good work going on, but I would like some protest votes, if I could, to send a message that we are interested in some Medicaid reform. Thank you, Mr. President.